Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing-related tweets. Or you can subscribe to the channel and click that notifications button and get a notification whenever a new video is uploaded. Let's talk boxing. I wasn't going to bring a third video. I've already uploaded 2 today, so please check those out. But there have been a whole bunch of developments that have gone on in terms of controversial developments. Twitter's blown up. So let's talk about them. One of them is about Billy Joe Saunders. To start with, to understand what's gone on here, there's a show here in the United Kingdom for our non-British viewers called Panorama, which is kind of like what you've got in the United States called 60 Minutes, I believe. I think 60 Minutes also exists in Australia. It's like an investigative, undercover, expose type of show. Panorama hasn't been far from controversy when they've been exposed in the past too, though. They've been found to have allegedly, I will always use the word allegedly here, to have allegedly engaged in some, let's just say, unfair journalism where they were editing footage, allegedly, where they were setting people up, allegedly, where essentially they were acting like activists rather than journalists and reporting in a manner that was not accurate. They were making things up to make somebody appear guilty of certain things that they were not guilty of, allegedly. Now, the person in question was a very controversial figure. And I'm not talking about whether he's a good guy or bad guy. I'm not talking about whether you should like him or not. But the facts remain that he also filmed them. He exposed them. And allegedly. And when you have a history of reporting things that aren't necessarily accurate, people are going to assume that you are fake news. This is why the mainstream media generally is not trusted. It's not trusted by the left. It's not trusted by the right. And this is what happens when you are not honest. It's a boy who cried wolf situation. Now, it's important to note this because they have carried out an expose on MTK Global. Now, MTK Global is a management company, of course, that has a whole bunch of world-class fighters, including Tyson Fury and various others, Billy Joe Saunders and so on and so forth. Now, the accusation is that they are run by a criminal underworld elite gangster. This is the allegation. Now, I don't know whether it's true or not, like I said. Now, apparently, Barry McGuigan had been speaking to them. This is what I've heard. I've yet to see the show. I'll watch it tomorrow night. Now, that has caused some backlash from a bunch of fighters, particularly MTK fighters, and a few of the journalists that have spoken about this. The journalists have accused MTK of blocking them and so on and so forth. I don't know what's going on with that controversy. I also don't really know that much about what actually happened behind the scenes with Barry McGuigan, with the McGuigans in general, and Carl Frampton. Shane McGuigan was the best man at Carl's wedding. I know that Carl accused him of, I believe it was stealing money from him. This is what I've read on newspaper articles. And they went to court. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Carl Frampton that won the case. Now, regardless of what you know, whose side you're on in this situation, the fact of the matter is Barry McGuigan was called a rat by Billy Joe Saunders and various others, and he put up some Instagram stories which calling him a rat and asking for a cage for a furry little friend called Barry and stuff like that. Additionally to that, Billy Joe Saunders put out an Instagram story of a challenge that's going around, one of those hashtag challenges that go around on social media, which is post your daughter. Hashtag post your daughter, and you put up a photo with your kids, and you know, all these people talk about how much they love their children and blah, blah, blah. Well, Billy Joe did the same thing. And a couple of journalists are suggesting that this was a dig at Barry McGuigan, who had tragically lost his daughter recently. I believe she had leukemia, but don't hold me to that. I know she had some serious health issues and tragically she passed away. I mean, that's just the most horrendous thing. Now, if Billy Joe is genuinely guilty of this, all I can say is, you know, God forgive him, because I can't think of a worse thing you can say to another human being. I can't think of a worse thing you could say to another human being in terms of an insult. Anything else might not have basis in reality. You could go and racially abuse someone, and it's a horrible thing to do. And the reason it's hurtful to a lot of people is because you're essentially showing them that you see them as inferior, because that's what racism is. Racism is the belief that one group of people is biologically inferior to another. Now, obviously, if you go and racially abuse someone and you compare that individual, say, to a specific animal, there's no actual reality there. There's no basis, there's no foundation for truth. So it's an empty comment. The reason it becomes hurtful is because they see what you think of them. And that's hurtful. But there's no basis in truth. There's no reality. Whereas when you are mocking somebody's dead daughter, well, there's reality there. Okay? That's, his daughter really is dead. You know, so if you are, say, from an ethnic minority background or whatever, and somebody abuses you racially, it's going to hurt you a lot less, I would assume, than if that person was to insult your dead daughter. So in terms of like a pain scale, there's nothing worse you could say. The question is Billy Joe Saunders actually guilty of this, or have people put two and two together? Well, when I first saw the footage, I saw these tweets and they were screenshots rather of Instagram stories. One of them said 22 hours ago, one of them said 10 hours ago. So he's made the comment about Barry, and then it looks like 12 hours later, he's spoken about his daughter. Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't even remember what I tweeted 12 hours ago, let alone connect them in any way. So to me, that comes across as though he's totally innocent. Now, there is a journalist called Gavin Casey, one of the Irish journalists who brought this up. He actually questioned, because I brought up the fact on Twitter that there was a 12-hour difference. Later on, Ben Davison also spoke about that. Gavin Casey put up a little story on Instagram, like a little video, where he connected the different stories and he was showing that they were all 23 hours apart. So he's suggesting that whoever took the screenshots might have taken them at different times, but actually they happened at the same time. Now, even if they did happen at the same time, is that proof that Billy Joe was mocking his daughter? Not necessarily, but it doesn't look good, does it? The thing is, though, Billy Joe Saunders is saying, look, when I put up that daughter challenge and he was asking for a florist so he could get a bouquet for his kid, he was saying, listen, I wasn't having a dig at anybody. I'm genuinely doing this. And since then, he's put up his screenshots of him sending messages to two different florists, one on WhatsApp, one on Instagram, where he's asking about bouquets for his daughter. So he's saying, look, this is just a coincidence. This is true. I would never do anything like that. He also put up the Post Your Daughter challenge on Facebook, and the photos were the same. One of them was him holding his daughter. Another couple were, I think she's dressed in like a white Santa's outfit or something. I didn't pay too much attention, but she's in like a furry white sort of attire, like really cute little girl. And then there was another one, another couple of his sons as well, and I think they were riding horses. And then there was another one again of his son being held by his grandmother. So what Billy's done essentially is he's saying, look, I've just put up a whole bunch of family photos. It's got nothing to do with Barry McGuigan. I'm criticising Barry, but it's got nothing to do with his daughter. Now, this could be another O'Hara Davis type situation. I was a lot more bullish in the way I was defending O'Hara, because to me that was just blatantly inaccurately portrayed. Interestingly, O'Hara Davis has jumped to the defence of Billy Joe Saunders here too. And he's basically said, look, I don't see anything wrong here. He hasn't done anything wrong, sort of thing. Now, Billy Joe has also put this, like I said, on Facebook. And on Facebook, there was no mention of Barry McGuigan at all. So again, are people just bringing certain things together and assuming that he's done something like this? Well, one of the reasons that this is important, because I do believe, like I said, based on this evidence, based on the fact that it seems to be all over the place, it's unclear at what point it happened, you know, how many hours they were apart. A lot of people are saying, look at Billy Joe Saunders' history, you know what he's like. It's still a big jump, man, to making tasteless jokes generally and doing stuff like that, to one father mocking another father for the death of his daughter. I mean, that's a massive jump. That's a proper scumbag thing to do. If he's done anything like that, my God. Now, I don't have Instagram. Now, I did go on my girl's Instagram, and it did appear as though they were, you know, far apart. I don't know if things were deleted, though. Okay? I don't know. To me, personally, the way I see it, if I'm looking at it as evidence, it looks to me like it's just a coincidence. It's unclear when it was posted. It looks like it wasn't right one after the other. He's posted it on another platform, social media platform, where there's no mention of Barry as far as I'm aware. And he's posted two conversations with florists. I just don't see the evidence, the proof that this is somehow a dig at Barry, regardless of the fact that they obviously don't like each other away from that. And so obviously people like Dean James have put up saying, I can't give him the benefit of the doubt here, not with his track record, the guy's absolute trash. It's different though. This is a big jump, man. It's such a big jump to mock someone's dead daughter compared to some of the other things he's said and done. It's just a big jump. I can't see it personally. Let me know what you think about this. But what I find interesting, right, is Dan Canobio. That guy again, Dan Canobio, man. The one that I mentioned in that video about Lomachenko where he was mocking Lomachenko. Dan Canobio, I believe, owns or runs CompuBox. Okay? He's a ringside reporter. Okay, he's involved with DeBella Entertainment and stuff like that. And Lou DeBella commented on this too, so we'll discuss this. But he basically put out a tweet to say, this Kinahan is the guy that has been accused by Panorama. MTK's story is ugly. BJ Saunders now adding to the filth. Let's reward him with a career high payday versus the sport's best talent. #boxing. So he's essentially implying, like many other people have, that Billy Joe Saunders doesn't deserve a title shot as a result. Listen, there have been a lot of fighters that have been involved in a lot of horrendous things, violent things, all sorts, that have had world title shots and stuff like that. So let's not go down that route for a start, because there's no proof that we know that Billy Joe actually meant this for a start. And secondly, yeah, like I said, what goes on in the boxing ring is totally different. You don't have to like Billy Joe. It's the most horrendous thing you could say to someone. I agree. If he's guilty of it, it's unforgivable. But this thing about people saying now that he doesn't deserve a title shot, this cancel culture type thing when we don't actually know that he's guilty of this is shocking. Now, we can't go down that route. Now, Billy Joe Saunders himself has put up a tweet whereby he's shown a private conversation he's had with Lou DeBella. And Billy Joe messaged Lou DeBella, Lou DeBella went off on a rant about Billy Joe. And he said, I have lost loved ones and I would never bring the dead into arguments. I'm not perfect, but I would never disrespect anybody who has passed away. And I think you owe me an apology for that post. And Lou DeBella replied, I pulled down my tweet. I think that speaks for itself. Your gripe is less with me than with the many that reposted your tweets and made this an issue. But you have a sincere apology from me, man to man, if those posts were simply coincidental in their proximity. I'm not calling you a liar, so please accept my apology. I've dealt with way too much loss in my life and reacted emotionally. Props to Lou DeBella for that. It takes a big man to emotionally respond and then realise, actually, maybe I've jumped the gun, maybe I've reacted emotionally. I'm not going to double down on this. At the end of the day, if Billy Joe is guilty of this, then that's on him. That's on his soul. That's with God. I personally apologise to you if I've accused you and you're innocent. Big respect to Lou DeBella for that. Now, it's just interesting to see how this plays out, though, in terms of how people are going to judge Billy Joe. Where do you stand on this? Okay, I understand. If he's guilty of this, it's unforgivable. Unforgivable. But isn't it a bit of a big jump to assume that he meant this? And I know people are going to say, look at his track record. His track record's never done anything quite this bad, has it? To say something like this to somebody? Let me know where you stand on this. Moving on from Billy Joe, there's been a fight that's been arranged, that's set to happen. Lamar Odom, a rapper, is set to fight Aaron Carter, who is a former singer, brother of one of the Backstreet Boys. They're going to have a fight in Atlantic City, apparently. Now, listen, I've spoken before about celebrity matches. I did a boxing video here where I've discussed the question of why it captures the imagination. You know, we spoke about Mick Theo potentially fighting Tyson Fury's dad, John Fury. Now, obviously, they're more, you know, Mick Theo is a guy that trains, and although he's not a professional fighter, he was known sort of on the London scene as being a tough guy on the streets compared to a guy who's a former pro fighter. So this is nothing like this. But I'm not going to be one of these guys that takes a high and mighty position and starts having a go at casuals for wanting to see celebrity fights, because the truth is, they're not celebrities that interest me. But, you know, if this was a few years ago and they were a bit younger and I was going to find out that Stallone was going to have a boxing match against Schwarzenegger, or Wesley Snipes was going to fight Michael J. White, or Steven Seagal was going to fight Jean-Claude Van Damme, I'd have watched. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Hands up, I'd have watched. So I understand how this can generate interest. I get it. But this one's reaching a new low, because Lamar Odom has had 12 strokes and 6 heart attacks, reportedly. This is a guy who's almost died, and they're going to put him in a boxing ring. Who's going to be involved in this? If you are involved in any way in promoting this fight, in training these fighters, in televising it, in whatever, if you are somehow encouraging this fight, if you're reporting on it in a sense of building it up and bigging it up, there's this is from a page called Complex something. I don't even know. It's a blue tick page. The point is, how dangerous is this? God forbid if something happens to Lamar Odom, are you going to sit there and put up those pray emoji hands and pretend that you cared and that changes need to happen in boxing? It was only this week that the Pakistani cruiserweight champion, Muhammad Aslam, died in the ring. He got caught with a left hook. It was a solid left hook, but it looked innocuous in the sense that, how you see some knockouts where you think, oh my God, like, I hope he gets up. It wasn't like that. It was a heavy knockdown, but it wasn't really like that. Now, that's a pro fighter who's used to taking punishment, and he's going to get up and he's going to walk away. You assume, and he doesn't. He doesn't, God rest his soul. And these things make me question my own love for the sport. I have to be honest with you. I question myself. And I sit there and I'm thinking, what is it that I'm like, what am I going to tell God one day? Like, how do I justify my love for this sport? And we can sit there and we can say, listen, it saves more lives than it costs and so on and so forth. Is this just us justifying it to ourselves? Are we any different to the fans that used to sit in gladiatorial arenas? Are we? Just because this isn't guaranteed death, but it's possible death, whereas with them it was guaranteed death. You start to question these things philosophically. But now we're going to start, celebrating and promoting celebrities when one of them has Listen, a stroke is brain damage. You get a stroke because you had oxygen cut off to the brain for a period of time, and you're going to start celebrating these now? Come on, man. This is dangerous. Anyway, moving on from that, Mike Tyson and Frank Bruno. Frank Bruno gave an interview with Sonia Poulton on a platform called Brand New Tube, which is obviously a play on words. It's a spin-off, I think. It's a creation from those that have sort of had enough of the censorship that's going on other sort of video sharing platforms, including this one. So Brand New Tube, and it's called Raw Report Special with Frank Bruno. For those 90s boxing fans out there, I implore you to check it out. He talks about all sorts of things, his life, his career, the Frank Bruno Foundation. He talks about Jimmy Savile and that photograph that was taken. He talks about his mental health. And he also hints at a potential fight against Mike Tyson, which would be held in Ireland, as Mike Tyson wouldn't be allowed into the UK because of his criminal record. So that also links into the whole exhibition stuff. Could you imagine? We see a Mike Tyson versus Frank Bruno 3. Would you be willing to see that? And finally, Chisora. Derek Chisora has put out a tweet, which is also been put up by David Hay. It's a poster of him against Joseph Parker. I was under the impression that Joseph Parker was going to fight Junior Farr and that had been postponed. I don't know what's going on with that. But David Hayes put out always ready for battle 2021. There will be war. And Derek Chisora's put war is coming. They've both put up this particular poster. Haymaker Boxing also quoted Chisora to say, "I've made no secret that I want the fight with Parker," while David Hay put, "If Parker and his team are serious about making this fight again, we will happily look to reschedule." Great fight that would be for sure. Chisora's always involved in great fights. And Joseph Parker's a wonderful, wonderful talent. And it's make or break time for him now. He's either going to catapult himself back to the top and earn what could be rightfully his in terms of glory, because he's got all the talent in the world, or he's going to fall by the wayside, because it's certain mental aspects I question about him. Let me know what you think about all that we've spoken about today. Billy Joe Saunders, what is your position on this? What do you think about all this? Let me know, as well as the whole wider question of Panorama. If you want to comment on that, even though I've not seen it, I'll be interested to hear people's views on it. Let me know also what you think about this whole Chisora thing. Let me know what you think about this celebrity fight. Like I said, God rest the soul of Aslam Muhammad, who passed away this week. Terrible, terrible tragedy. And should anybody in sport be even remotely linked to celebrities fighting when one of them almost died, essentially. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. God bless.